Rain pelted the cracked pavement in heavy sheets, turning the dimly lit parking lot into a mirror of water reflecting broken neon signs. James Fletcher, a single father with tired eyes and grease-stained hands, crouched under the hood of an old sedan, cursing under his breath as another bolt slipped from his wrench. Life had become a relentless storm of unpaid bills, late-night shifts, and the aching fear that he couldn't provide enough for his little daughter, Emily. At 32, James had once imagined a life filled with love and stability, but after a messy divorce, every day felt like a battle he could barely win. His hands shook, not from the cold rain, but from exhaustion, worry, and a gnawing sense of defeat. Just then, a sleek, black car rolled into the lot, tires splashing through puddles. A woman stepped out, her designer coat soaked and her umbrella turned inside out by the wind. She looked frustrated, on the verge of tears, her phone clutched tightly in one hand as she surveyed the chaos of her broken-down car. James recognized her predicament instantly. He had been in that place too many times before. Without hesitation, he walked over, offering his assistance. She hesitated, her pride obvious, before muttering, "I don't have much. I can give you a sandwich. I'm so sorry." James paused for a moment, staring at the soggy sandwich wrapper she held out. He could feel the weight of his life pressing down on him, but there was something in that simple, humble gesture that reminded him he hadn't lost everything. Nodding with a faint smile, he accepted the offer. To him, it wasn't about the sandwich, it was about helping another human being in need, even when he himself was barely making it. As he worked, hands slick with oil, he thought about Emily, who was at home waiting for him with her homework scattered across the kitchen table. Every turn of the wrench, every clink of metal, was for her. The woman watched silently, the rain soaking her hair, as James labored tirelessly, refusing to leave until her car roared back to life. By the time he was done, her eyes were wide with astonishment and gratitude. The sandwich was long forgotten, left untouched on the hood, but the small connection they shared lingered in the cold, rainy air like a spark waiting to ignite something bigger. "Thank you," she said softly, a tremor in her voice. I don't know how to repay you." James shrugged, wiping his hands on his worn jeans. "Just take care of yourself. That's enough." The next day, life delivered a surprise that neither of them could have predicted. The woman, whose name was Isabella Grant, arrived at James's modest apartment complex unannounced. In her hand was a briefcase, and in her eyes, a determination that mirrored the storms James had endured for years. Isabella was a successful entrepreneur, founder of a rapidly growing tech company, and she had been deeply moved by the kindness of a man who had no obligation to help her, who had done so purely out of compassion. "I couldn't stop thinking about you," she said. "I want to give you an opportunity, an actual chance to change your life, not just for yourself, but for your daughter." She handed him an envelope containing an offer to manage a small division of her company, a job that promised stability, growth, and the chance to finally breathe. James's hands trembled, but this time it was not from fatigue, it was from hope. In the weeks that followed, James threw himself into the new role, learning quickly, proving himself not just as a competent worker, but as someone who embodied integrity, humility, and perseverance. For the first time in years, he could afford to give Emily the small joys he had only dreamed of, a warm dinner on time, a proper birthday party, and weekends at the park where he could watch her laugh freely without the shadow of worry hanging over him. Every night, he thought back to that rainy evening, to the sandwich that symbolized a simple act of kindness, and he realized that sometimes, life's biggest turns come from its smallest gestures. Isabella and James formed a bond that transcended business. She became a mentor, a friend, and eventually a source of inspiration for Emily as well. The girl often whispered to her father, "You're my hero, Daddy," and James realized that her love and admiration were the true reward for a life spent in quiet, steadfast courage. Through it all, James never forgot the rain-soaked parking lot, the woman who had unknowingly given him a chance, and the sandwich that became the first step toward a future he had thought was lost forever. He understood now that acts of kindness, no matter how small, had a way of circling back, of changing lives in ways that seemed impossible in the moment. If this story makes you believe in the power of compassion, in second chances, and in how one small act can ripple through lives, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear your story too. Months turned into years, and James's life had transformed in ways he never imagined. He watched Emily graduate from school, surrounded by friends and family who had once only been distant dreams. Isabella remained a constant presence, not only as a friend but as a reminder that empathy, generosity, and courage could change the course of a person's entire life. As the sun set one evening over their city skyline, James reflected on the journey he had taken, the despair, the tireless struggles, the moments of doubt, and finally, the triumph of quiet courage rewarded in ways he had never dared hope for. He knew now that true wealth wasn't measured in money or status, but in love, integrity, and the willingness to help someone even when it costs nothing but time. Before we finish, I'd love for you to comment and tell us which part of James and Emily's story touched you the most, or if you've ever experienced a moment where kindness completely changed your life. If this story moved your heart, please give it a like, share it with someone who needs hope today, and leave a comment. Stories like this remind us all that life can change in a heartbeat, and that the smallest acts of humanity can echo forever.